Alright, folks, this is Pico Hunt on the North American server, and this is the Tier 8 American battleship, North Carolina. This map is Sleeping Giant, it's Domination, and a shout out to Bremen in the Edinburgh, and Camo in the Benson. The North Carolina is one of the oldest ships in the game, and as far as Tier 8 battleships, and even not Tier 8 battleships go, I think it's still one of the best. Unfortunately, like some of the other ships I think the skill floor is very high, and even I wish I could play this thing better. The best part is, of course, the guns. They're super accurate. They have American super heavy AP, and the slow shells is actually a feature, to me at least. You can get it over islands, and you can do full pens on stuff that you would probably bounce on other battleships, and so on and so forth. The problem is, it's not very well armored. Or at least, it doesn't have quote-unquote cheat armor. Like the Germans have turtleback, and the British have the really deep citadel. The North Carolina doesn't really have either of those. And that means that even though it can tank bow in all right, it's very hard to turn it around without getting punished. And so, once you commit to even mild pushes, it's really hard to back it out. And that's why for this ship and other like bow-in ships, you see people reversing because it's just too dangerous to turn it around. The other thing is, it's not a particularly fast ship at 28 knots. This is pretty normal speed for battleships, but it's slow enough that you can't try to do hit and runs like the Hood or the Congo or some of the really fast battleships at the lower tiers. On the other hand, if you try to sit back and snipe, while the guns are very accurate, the slow shell travel time is a bit of a double-edged sword. If the thing that you're shooting at maneuvers even a little bit, it's very easy for the very accurate shot to not be accurate anymore, and it's probably worse in this regard than some of the more inaccurate guns, which will spread the shot around a little bit. And so what you gotta do is basically advance slowly and kind of ride that fine line between whether you can get out and whether you can still hit things. So you see, I came around this island really slowly, and I kind of paused there to see what the Reds were going to do. And it looked like they were pushing pretty hard, so I didn't like it. The North Carolina decided to go behind some islands, so I took that opportunity to turn the ship around, and in the process, we actually got 2 citadels on him, because we were pretty close. We actually finished him off with a 3rd citadel. That's exactly what you don't want to happen to you. And so I maneuvered into this position next to this island, which is now a really safe position, but on the flip side, it's a could potentially take you out of the game for a little bit position as well. Safe in the sense that I'm angled to most of the dangerous things, and I have a good escape route. I can go forward behind this island, but potentially take you out of the game because once I escape, I'll have to round this island, and that'll take, 30 seconds to a minute, which is not insignificant in a 20-minute game. But while I'm here, I'll try to shoot at whatever I can until it gets dangerous. You saw the 7K salvo on the bow-in cruiser. That's the super heavy AP at work there. The Z over here, unfortunately, does launch torps at us, and maybe we could have dodged it, but I'm a really bad torp dodger, so I didn't want to take that risk. And still, we kind of narrowly missed that last torp. Probably could have stopped there and backed back into the safe spot, but now I felt like we had pretty much stemmed the brunt of the push, and the enemies were kind of falling back, so we need to close the distance again. Also, the ships on both teams are tied, and they have 3 caps to our 1, so that's also another reason to make a move. So I'm taking the 30 seconds to a minute or whatever to get back around this island, but luckily it's fairly low, so we can keep shooting. Not that we're actually hitting anything all that well. You'll notice that inside the cap here, there's a bunch of small islands which can protect me from the biggest threat to me on this flank, which is destroyer torpedoes. And with Bremen coming with me into the cap, I can be fairly certain that destroyers won't also be able to flank around me and torp me from the side. So even when you're making a push, it's possible to push into safe positions. And here you're going to see a lovely full pen on that destroyer. It looked like he was going to get away with something like 3k health, but we blapped him with that last shell. Some people think that the full pen on destroyers is something that should be removed from the game. On one hand, you can kind of consider it like getting a citadel on the destroyer. Once again, I'm slowing down here to keep my guns on the Benson because it's a fairly safe position. If anything happens, I can pull forward in front of this island, and even then, he doesn't really have angles to torp me from where he is. And we're just going to wait to see if we can get another full pen or 2 here. I paused just a second to see if he would commit to a direction, but it doesn't matter, we took him out anyways. Do realize that when a destroyer is lengthwise to a battleship, it's more likely that the shell will get a full pen because it won't just go through the ship, it'll go through lengthwise. Since we're still down on points, though now we're up on ships, I want to try to get this cap, but I don't think I'm going to be in a position such that these cruisers can't shoot at me. That was a really nice salvo on the St. Louis. That probably went through the deck or something. And that's because the super heavy AP keeps its penetration power pretty well, even toward the end of the range. I guess the Hipper's just trying to reset here. This is not really a good position for him, though I did try to first take a shot at the destroyer. Originally, I was backing up to try to get back behind the island so I could finish the cap, but now I just want to make it such that the destroyer can't shoot torps between these two islands into me. Hipper shows us a pretty good angle, but we aren't able to finish him off. Since Bremen takes him out, I'm going to try for the cap again. And maybe we can take out the destroyer over there as well. Originally, I was going to just try to position myself back where I felt like the torps couldn't hit me, but the destroyer actually comes out, and so as long as we keep the islands between us and the destroyer, he can't actually launch torps at us, so I'm just trying to, this is a bit of an art, just find where that balance is. We do see, though, that the Benson shot his torps at Bremen, so really we don't need to be careful anymore. But I still turned in toward him to keep the distance down so I could help Bremen out because he's almost dead over there. The secondaries are going off, but they're pretty useless secondaries. And since this island is between us and the St. Louis, we're finally able to finish the cap. But at this point, if you look at the score, the game is pretty much over.
Our victory is in sight.
Just gonna try to take a couple more pot shots at St. Louis, try to farm some damage. 4,000 is not too good, but we only got one hen. The St. Louis does have torps, but he's basically never going to get a chance to get them off. And there he goes. And we're basically not going to get any more damage. So, ultimately, the things you got to play around are you have really good, accurate guns, but since the shell travel times are slow, you kind of have to get close to do damage if targets are moving. But then your armor makes it such that it's hard to disengage from those situations if you overextend. That makes it easier to overextend. And so you just have to balance those attributes, which is, of course, easier said than done. One good thing that doesn't really come up in this replay, though, is that she has very good AA, which means that if you do get into a bad situation, it's just that much harder for the enemy to dislodge you. Looking at the results screen, this was not an amazing game, but it was a pretty good one. I like this replay, though, because we shot at pretty much everything, and a lot of the shots landed really well. And I think it really captures the potential of this ship that we can all hope to unlock. Since we mostly shot at destroyers and not battleships, we got a base XP of 2,700, which is pretty darn good. Everything we shot was, of course, AP, and we did get 4 secondary battery hits for 2300, which is, I think that's rare in this ship. So that's the North Carolina. Have a nice day.